Okay. Hey folks, this is Jordy, the music director here at Spinnaker Radio, and today I'm here with Dekker. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Okay, so first, obviously, I wanted to start talking about your most recent project, Slow Reveal, and kind of just really the sound that dominates that album. Just because when I was listening to it, I felt the most consistent, like sort of energy being folk dominated, but then also I've heard like twinkles of rock and soul, specifically on songs like Beloved and I Think You Know. And so it's just kind of like in that concept where I wanted to ask you about your production and how you specifically went about creating the sound for this project.
Uh, yeah, well, it's supernatural. I mean, not supernatural like supernatural, but it's supernatural. Uh, I I sort of gave myself a rule because I play in a few other bands, and so I wanted to give myself some really strict rules for Dekker, so that I can easily sort of divorce them from the other projects, and so that I have a clear avenue. One of those things is that every song is written on a nylon string guitar. So it's a simple thing, but it just has a different tone and a different feel for me. And because the neck is different, I have to go to a different voicings and stuff. So that's one thing. And then I guess it was about half of this record that I did without my drummer, and then he joined about halfway through, and we're doing the same kind of thing, just nylon string and drums, and we add a little bit of color, a little bit of keyboards or some percussion stuff, but nothing that's totally necessary for the song to stand up. So that's kind of technically how I would define the sound. Then the other thing, you mentioned that you heard rock. I don't know where exactly that would be. Maybe the drums and some bits. Maybe I'm not really sure. That's interesting, actually. But the soul stuff I think might be a voice thing. I think if my voice was taken out, probably it would all just sound like folk, I think. And that's an interesting thing that I'm trying to play with a lot. Trying to let my voice go to places that I maybe don't naturally just do.
Yes.
So.
No, 100%. I totally picked up on that. Especially the soul thing is totally in the vocals. Especially like on This Love, just like how high you get and like the way it kind of like drones on. It's like that's where the soul's coming through for me. And then with the rock, I was thinking more specifically with your song Unwavering Routine, just because it got like super like grungy and experimental in the middle. And that was like where I wanted to kind of go next, because specifically This Here Island and Unwavering Routine stuck out to me. This Here Island felt like energetically different. It felt like hopeful, but it resonated with me as like the most sad for some reason. And then Unwavering Routine, just again like with that experimentation, that one just stood out to me sonically the most. So
Cool.
Just talking about those two songs as well, like specifically how those came to be, and like also like their position in your track list and stuff like that, like those decisions I'm interested in.
So, This Here Island, I think that might actually be the first song written out of the songs that made it on the record. I think that might be the first one that was written. That was before I had a drummer. I was on my own. I started that song. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she was in the bath, and I was sitting on the toilet with my guitar. This is our routine. And so I was like, I wasn't like using the toilet. I was using it as a chair. And so I was playing my guitar while she was in the bath. And I just, at the time we had, I don't want to get into the weeds of what exactly the song was about, because I think there's an interesting thing that's happened to the song since this whole pandemic malarkey. It was kind of, looking back, it's kind of weirdly prophetic in its sort of pre-apocalyptic sort of nature. So I wasn't predicting COVID necessarily, but we were over here. I'm in England, and we were kind of going through this Brexit stuff, and and I sometimes I do feel like I'm on an island, which I guess I am here in England. And so the song was kind of written in that sort of climate, on a toilet while my daughter was in the bath just before me. And that was recorded all by me. It was just, some percussion and guitar. I love that song. I really love that song. Unwavering Routine. I just layered up guitars, and I just wanted to, that is the one song where it's not nylon string, but actually there is a nylon string guitar acoustic in it. In fact, the only acoustic guitar in it is nylon string, but then the rest of the guitars are just, different tunings and just distorted and kind of screwed up. I feel like and I have that kind of like, I don't remember what track number, but I guess it's 2/3 through the album. It's just a little bit of a palate cleanser, a little bit of a, like, had enough of this guy with the acoustic guitar thing, because here I am, a singer-songwriter making singer-songwriter music, and that's not even necessarily what I listen to. So anyway, it's there in the track list as a kind of a palate cleanser, a little freshening up kind of thing,
That makes sense. And also, really quick, I wanted to hop back to the nylon strings just to see it. Like, is that you made that decision as like to distinguish yourself from your other groups, but is there any reason, like sonically, why you chose that instrument to like be the foundation of this album?
Well, I wanted it to be. I think the honest answer is no. I think that's the honest answer. I think it had more to do with my emotional attachment to this guitar and the fact that I just wanted to just write on that guitar.
Right.
I think that's the honest answer. But I am happy with the choice sonically now, because it does have a kind of a muted warmth to it. It doesn't have the shrillness of a steel string acoustic. It's kind of, I can play it more percussively, which I think is more interesting. Yeah. I just don't want to sound like a typical singer-songwriter guy that you find in a coffee shop. I want there to be something more interesting, because we've all heard that a bazillion times. And I'm interested in taking that somewhere else.
Right.
And I can do that more fluently with the nylon string than I can the steel string.
Right. And I think, like, and not that you need like any validation, but I think like that's really coming through, just because even when I was like, it's coming through in like a lot of different ways. Also just like your visuals, I don't like, for your songs and for the album, they're like so distinctly different from any other sort of like singer-songwriter production, especially like that feels very folksy. You would expect it to kind of feel like Bon Iver or something, but it just feels completely different, and like you said, like a muted warmth. And I feel like that's why it just feels good, and like I feel more connected to it, which I feel awesome about. But also, I just wanted to ask you about these visuals specifically though, because I noticed like for Hands Clean, you have like this thing that you do with the dance moves where like they seem to like echo this sort of trance that you get rhythmically that you put in your songs. There's like a trance that's in the songs, and you kind of like mimic that. And I was wondering if that was like an intentional decision, or if that's just kind of like intuitive.
It is intentional, and I'm glad you picked it up, because it's something that's quite subtle that I'm not sure if that sort of aspect is picked up on. It's I was raised in America. I'm American. Mm-hmm. You can probably tell by the voice. I was raised in America in a really religious family, and we went to like a gospel church, and so just deep religion in our family. And the only thing, well, that's a big conversation, but I'm no longer religious in the same kind of way. But one of the things that I look back on with the most fondness are those like repetitive, emotional, getting all stirred up and crazy kind of jams, like there's just something that's still, I want that, I kind of crave that. And it's, so I guess I'm kind of doing that. I'm kind of wish it true. I'm trying to work myself into a frenzy of freedom and beauty or something, you know. And so that's what I am. It's like kind of it's a nod to my sort of gospel upbringing kind of thing, I think.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. I mean, that was like one of my favorite aspects, like just like seeing you kind of like do a loop with these weird movements, and like feeling very like connected to the physicality of it, but also the musicianship at the same time. It just like adds a complete new element, and I thought it was just gorgeous. So thank you.
That's really nice. Yeah, thank you. I also think it's cool just you don't see singer-songwriter, you know, singing folk songs in dancing like that.
No, 100%.
No, I'm not a dancer. I don't know how to dance. It's all emotion. It's all just working myself up and really feeling it in a very unpolished way. And I think it's just, apart from everything else I just said, it's also just one step further away from singer-songwriter, in quotes, you know?
Yeah. But
so yeah, I like it. That's another fun part of being Dekker for me.
Yeah, totally. It makes sense, and I think it's like everything that you're doing as far as like your intention, your intuition, it's really like coming through, you know. It's really being like translated very well, I think. And I also, it's like in this that I also wanted to kind of take a step back, because you've been in the music industry since like what, 2006? And so it's like well over, you know, when you're in the industry for like well over decades making music, there's bound to be like a bunch of changes that occur in your processes and your navigation. And so like, and obviously you're stepping out into this Dekker role where like everything's kind of shifting and you're kind of trying to find yourself singularly as a solo artist. So kind of how, I wanted to know like about your specific experience and like what's changed and what stayed the same for you.
About, well, yeah, I mean, I've been kind of in different parts of the music industry since my first band was, I guess that would have been 1998. And so, and then I was in and out doing different stuff. So it was even earlier than 2006. I think, I mean, there's lots of, everything has changed about the industry, and I don't know how, but I don't know how interesting that is to talk about, because I'm more interested in just songs and art and feelings. So that's what I'll talk about. So I feel like I'm still learning how to do this, still learning how to do it honestly. And I think part of that is because maybe even as much as like 2 decades, for most of the time that I've been an active musician, it's been more like pretending, kind of trying to do, I think, kind of like what I thought I was supposed to do, rather than really listening to my body and really following my own sort of internal compass, which is really what Dekker has fully allowed me to do. There's another project that I'm in and have been actively since 2006 and still am, and that there's a lot of truth in that project as well, but it's not a solo project. There's other, you know, so I don't have the same kind of control, whereas this project now I'm in control of this. It's me. I can really chase myself here. That's the biggest thing for me, is like I'm able to be more honest, I'm able to be more expressive, and even though I don't think anyone would listen to any of these songs or see any of these visuals and consider it abstract, I am able to abstract my feelings into these mediums a lot more than I've been able to in previous years. And I guess one of the industry changes that makes that easy is the fact that everyone can have a YouTube account for free. Everybody can, anyone can distribute music, for very cheap now. That's one change that I think is really great, the sort of democratization of the industry in a way. It just allows people to just, for me, it allows me to just get stuff out, make it, get it out, and kind of react and ebb and flow with what I'm feeling and what's going on around me. So.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I'm glad you answered it that way, because like you're right, like it's not nearly as interesting like about like the actual inner workings of like the industry. It's more about like how you respond to that, and that's like what I was getting at. And so I'm glad you answered that way, because it seems like you're responding to everything very intuitively, right? And so I kind of like want to ask, into that, like, kind of just like, how are you feeling in generally about like trying to find yourself right now, as a solo artist? Because like you said, everything that you've done up to this point mostly has been like collaborative, or performative in some way. And so it's like, I can only imagine it to be like feel uprooting in some sort of way. So it's like, how do you feel like, do you feel grounded in finding yourself? Do you feel free in that? Or does it just all kind of feel like a big mess?
No, it's totally free. I feel total creative freedom, and it's wonderful. I'm really enjoying this. I love being Dekker.
Oh my God, I
do.
That.
I really do.
Well, that's amazing.
Total freedom for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like that makes total sense then. So it's just like one of your like babies, I guess, that you're just having like the most fun with, and like finding full sort of like self-individualistic autonomy now, Is that like, is that like confident enough to say like that's the direction you're kind of moving in?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not it's a very fluid situation here.
Yeah.
Like I'm not thinking too far into the future, like I write songs, I record them, I put them out. I dance weirdly. I do all of this stuff because I want to.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a I have other, there are like other influences, and there are other things I'm trying to do, career wise, or little goals that I kind of set for myself that I wouldn't talk about. There are little other things to it, but just in general, I'm just enjoying being free, enjoying being an artist, trying to stretch my voice, my body, my songwriting into areas that I haven't been able to get into before. And just to kind of weird it up sometimes. It's just free and fun.
No, beautiful. No, I love that so much. I'm glad that's like not a super like intense answer or anything like that, because it feels more authentic to like the project and what you've been doing. So it all makes complete sense, and I love it. And I feel like it's a breath of fresh air as well, because everybody needs that sort of like that musicianship that's just like purely like soulful, like attached to the self and individualistic in a way that's not too much or too heavy, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, beautiful. But do you have anything that you would like to share with the general public before we head out? Just like any announcements or any upcoming projects or things that you might be working on?
Yeah, well, this record that I've already released it digitally. I'm doing a physical release on the 12th of March. I released this album kind of one song at a time over the last year plus-ish, something like that. And so it's kind of finally coming to its sort of end a little bit. Obviously it's going to live on in other ways in other people's homes, but the physical release comes out on the 12th of March. And I'm almost finished with the next song. Like, so chapter 2, like, we're going. It won't be long. Mm-hmm. We'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dekker, for coming on and being our guest. It was the best interview, so I appreciate it so much.
Oh, cool. Thanks for having me.